Hello, this is Scott Caruso from the April 2012 term of Scalable Data Infrastructures, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about my successes and challenges from the week one assignment of building my first working piece of JavaScript code. All told, I felt like I was fairly successful in meeting the requirements of the project, and on a lot of fronts it was actually easier than I expected it to be. Coding the story was actually much easier for me than deciding what variables to use and how to tie them together. Really, I just followed along with the video instructions that were early in the week and kind of typed up some sample code to follow along. And by the time I got to the assignment part of the activity, there was really just some polish I needed to do, close things up, tie them together, and wrap it in a neat little bow for the project, then write out the HTML part of it. On the flip side, though, like I mentioned, deciding the variables to use was a lot more difficult to me. When trying to set up something that even resembled the narrative. I kept finding myself using variables that didn't tie in well with the story or required a much more complex story than I was able to tell in 15 or 20 lines of code. So I ended up settling on variables around a city to travel to, a means of transportation, who owned that transportation, things like that. I started out with a lot of other variables, and the story was about what to do at a subway station to get to where you wanted to go, and it actually required a much more complex set of variables, and so the story I ended up settling on was more like, where are we going to go? How are we going to get there? And it worked out much better, I thought, in the long run, trying to keep it as simple as possible. Following along with the flowchart to get to that point was actually probably the best part of the experience for me because it's something I'm familiar with. It's something I've done before, something I've used before. I've dealt with flowcharts a lot in my role as a manager in video game development. I'm with Warner Brothers now. I used to be with EA, and I've used them a lot for writing bug workflows, issue escalation paths, things like that. So I've dealt with them a lot, and so it was familiar to me and made it easier for me to figure out where I needed to fix the project and really helped me give a direction to what I was doing. Stepping back and looking at the big picture, it's clear that the project was really trying to teach me to break down a story or action into the smallest possible pieces. Where's the decision made? What are the outcomes of the decision? It's really easy to just look at the big picture. Here I am at point A. I want to get to point B. And you don't really consider the detours to point C, D, and E that might be on the way there. And when I stopped to do that, I realized that my original point A to point B was way too big for the scope of this project. So big picture, building the code is not much different from this. You can't just look at the big picture. There are so many moving parts to successfully written code that requires breaking it down to the source and dealing with each function separately. So in short, like I said, I felt like I was pretty successful with the first week's work. The coding came easily, which I'm happy with, but I still need to work on focusing my direction a little bit better because it's clear that future assignments are going to be larger and require that level of focus and simplicity in terms of the individual pieces of code.